Well, welcome to this week's online update. For those of you that were not able to attend in person for this season, we want to be given an update just to keep you up to speed on our sermon series for this season. This week, I'm talking about St. Patrick in our sermon series, Concrete and Color. We primarily remember St. Patrick for Guinness beer, but let's talk about that as a holiday this morning. Holidays were actually called once holy days. So it was a day that people would reflect on saints or reflect on men and women that serve God, and they would be marked by a day of celebration, specialness, difference, uniqueness. These were both holidays and holy days. And to paraphrase it, Malcolm Guite says these people, these saints, there's a certain neighborliness about the saints. The Nicene Creed, which we all believe and affirm as Christians, speaks of we believe in the communion of the saints. Those that love God in this life and who are with God now, we are united as the church, and they are with the God who loves us. So when we remember the saints, when we go through the series of Concrete and Color, we're going to be thinking about these stories and these men and women that serve God that are now this community, as Hebrews talks about, like a community of saints urging us on. It's like a stadium of cheering us on, this cloud of witnesses. And I hope as we go through that you understand how deeply encouraging this is. You did not come up with Christianity, and it's not all on your shoulders. This is a community and the saints that continue to cheer us on to this day. And I hope what you'll see through the sermon series is you'll see this different man or different woman of God, this person who loved God, and you'll see yourself in the journey. There's so much variety of saints. There's wonderful, portly, wine-drinking Thomas Aquinas, and then there's the thin, calm, animal-loving Francis, to the totally gloomy, dark night of the soul, boy can I do depression, St. John of the Cross. Then there's Brother Juniper of the Franciscans, who was completely clowning around all the time, yet had a deep love for God and is remembered as a saint who walked in godly love. And somewhere in this vast palette of God's people, there's someone like you. Like when we go through week by week, I pray that we would encourage you to show you these snapshots of people that you might see yourself. Maybe you don't see yourself in this one because this person's too serene and quiet and calm, but you might see someone like I love, I guess you can't call him Saint David, King David. We talk about David, and he was a man of war, and he would conquer. But once he found the ark and he decided like, this is the thing this is everything. This is above all things. And we see that he set up day and night worship. And this man who knew everything about war and was the best of it, gave it up from that day forward, never went back to war because he found his true north. You're going to see people, maybe yours is like G.K. Chesterton, who was a wine-loving man of God, and he used to be a deep well of knowledge, and he would often use satire. So maybe you are the one that likes to poke. There's saints that used to love to use satire to uproot heresies in the modern day and church or false teaching of other religions at the time. And it's going to be beautiful. I hope you find over these next few weeks a friend, a saint who's like your kin, your kind. And today for a moment, we're going to talk about St. Patrick. Now, when you think of St. Patrick, you might not think of Halloween, but in fact, the reason, well, this is folklore, I shouldn't say in fact. Folklore, the reason that we remember that we even hand out gifts is because St. Patrick went into Ireland, and one night a year, these people were filled with fear that the dead could walk by the Spirit one night a year. And he just thought this was preposterous. So he would go around place to place so that people had locked their doors. They'd even dressed up in different outfits to not appear like themselves. They're so afraid of spirits, they would cut up gourds or pumpkins to look like the scary faces to keep these people away. He would walk out and he would just knock on people's doors and bring sweets and just remind people who they are now in Christ. He would cheerfully celebrate, our lives are now hidden in Christ. And it actually led on to All Saints' Day, which is the day after. But this boldness that St. Patrick had didn't start in his youth. He has a few autobiographies about him, too, in fact. But he says his Catholic upbringing actually didn't take root in him when he was a kid. When he was a teenager, though, he was captured and put into slavery. And at the age of 16, Patrick was captured, put into slavery by like these Celtic raiders, these soldiers that pretty much treated men and women like cattle. But he was enslaved for 6 years, and he was a shepherd. And for weeks on end, he would not have a single person to talk to. He'd have the sheep to talk to. And somewhere in this, it says that he reflected back on his Catholic upbringing. And he remembered things about conversion. He remembered things about prayer. And he came to Christianity at that season of life. And after 6 years, a voice came to him, and it said that he would be able to escape. So he found a way to get through and get back home. There was many setbacks and also adventures, but he found his way back to his family. And he came back to this town that didn't have that maybe was just following through with tradition and following through with the ways. But he came back with this inward reality, a person who had prayed and walked and talked to Jesus, just similar to David, developing a relationship. When all you got is sheep to talk to, you talk to God a lot more. I don't know about your life. I remember my first pastoring job. It was the exact same. One of the greatest times of my life was moving to this town in the middle of nowhere, Brooks, Alberta, and having no friends. It was like Jesus became my best friend truly for that season. And some of these moments, like St. Patrick and like in my life, you need to have a moment where you have a great deal of time for the Lord to develop that root, to develop that deep connection with God so that it isn't just a tradition that you follow in. However, let's keep moving on with St. Patrick. So some years later, Patrick looks like Peter on the screen. Patrick had a vision of an Irish man named Victorious who delivered a letter from the voice of the Irish. So in this vision, the soon-to-be St. Patrick heard voices crying out to him saying, like, "We appeal to you, holy servant boy, to come and walk among us." And so he did. It's this wonderful story, and it's maybe poetic, this story of Patrick, how he went back to Ireland. This time, first it was involuntary, and this time it is voluntary, where he's here to serve the people. He was serving sheep before, but now he's serving people. And he went through so many hardships in his life. He was even a slave. But we remember him as the patron saint of Ireland. He came back and he preached and he shared the gospel with these people in Ireland, no matter the cost, no matter what pagan priests were coming at him with literal death, but he shared the gospel and he's remembered for all time. And I encourage you to think about this in your own life. Maybe you will walk like St. Patrick. When the time comes and hard times come, will you choose to cry out to God, or will you choose to curse God? And I pray that you would develop in that moment when maybe men or maybe moments you feel betrayed. Just think about that. How, God, might I respond, that I might draw nearer to you, God? We live in a culture right now where I think it's almost Hollywood to say curse God is the way to go. We as a church, we believe that these moments are not meant to take us out. They're only meant to take us like a tree planted. It's only meant to plant you deeper, to get your root system deeper in Christ, so that you too may think about your life in the same way Patrick did. How might I live that you might be remembered 1,000 years from now? What choices might you make in your life that you, instead of cursing God, would cry out to God and give your life for God, that you might have a well that people are able to draw from for the next 1,000 years. So we love you so much, church. We'll see you again in this way, and we hope if you're able to come, COVID restrictions with the masks and the distance, you will come on out to Sunday morning. But we love you so much, church, and that's it for this week. Have a blessed week.